Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Want to remind everybody, hit the like, share, and subscribe button. There's a PayPal button for anybody who wants to share some love down in the details section. And of course, the StreamYard link is there for anybody who wants to join the panel. Today we're going to go over, we're going to review a short video I did on Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, since we discussed that last night, as well as the inauthentic claim. And then we're also going to be talking about the diplomatic channels of notice, which is where you have the right to place your claim versus their inauthentic claim. So we're going to go over that information here tonight to kind of help correlate the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, that private placement, the real party in interest, obtaining personal jurisdiction, and the fact that under the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, there's certain exceptions that don't allow them to obtain subject matter or personal jurisdiction. So let's take a look at it.
Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Get set up here. I came in haste, so I don't have all my channel stuff set up yet. So please bear with me.
And again, this is that Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act from the travel state gov site.
I want to take the time to thank everybody for their support. And while I'm doing so, please remember to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. I am working on 3 channels again tonight, and I get set up one more time on this last channel. And so please hit the like, share, and subscribe button. If you're on one channel, get the other 2 channels and hit those buttons to help the algorithms. And then, of course, in the meantime, I've got to drop.
And while I'm on it, in the details section, you'll see my regular social site links with my regular YouTube channel and everything. But then down below, you'll see 5 channels. Those are the 5 main channels that I'm using from my Authors Guild, and each one will have their own separate content eventually. But right now, I generally tend to stream to 3 of them at a time. And so there's some that have quite, like El Perro is going to have everything. And then I'll divide it down into the other channels, Keith Little, at Paul Jr., Wyrd Wyzard, and Heckle-Bus. So feel free to drop down there and check those channels out and hit the like, share, and subscribe there as well. Please and thank you. And we got Robert with us again. How you doing tonight, Robert?
Good. I feel like I just left here.
You did. You did. We're back at it. But God doesn't take a day off, so we're not either.
Good for you. Good for us. I agree.
The link here, as soon as I find it. StreamYard link is being dropped now for people that want to join. And of course, there's a PayPal link down below for anybody that wants to share some love. Everything is appreciated. I don't know what's happening here, but it's giving me a hard time. Folks, hold on. Please and thank you. That's what happens when you have an old computer and you open too many windows.
Good to see you, New York native. Link's down there if you want to hop up, brother.
There you go. Link is pinned on all the channels. And we're coming to you tonight with the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act as the premise of granting immunity. With that concept, if you want equity, you must first come with equity. If you want peace, you must bring peace. And that's that basis of the Lord's Prayer, of course. Forgiving thy brother as you ask them to forgive you. So we're going to take a look at this as it relates to so many other aspects that I've spoken about in the last 7 years. And one of those we're going to look at, of course, U.S. citizenship, laws, and policy. Involves international judicial assistance. Service.
And you'll notice the first thing up here is disclaimer. You'll notice the first thing on my website is the UPU's copyright disclaimer. It's all about disclaiming what may or may not be true because you really don't know. It's a belief.
of process. Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, the FSIA checklist, Inter-American Service Convention, and additional protocol. Obtaining
And that FSIA checklist is what we're talking about with the exceptions. See, again, it's the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act itself that governs these kind of proceedings, not the administrative courts. This is one of those things that I was telling about. They can't obtain jurisdiction unless they have an exception to being foreign. And that's that identification. That's the exception in all cases. That's a minimum state contact saying that you have placed a presumption or applied for an implication that laid the presumption that you are going to act in the performance of a functions of public office domestically under the governing body and not this governing document.
evidence, and this is what we call material fact evidence. It's in on and for the record already, folks. It's already there. All you have to do is obtain it. How do you obtain it? Well, you know who's holding the record? If not, ask. Where do I find these records? Retaining a foreign attorney, enforcement of judgments, international treaties and agreements, international child support enforcement, international prison transfer program, information for lawyers and judges. Interesting part there. Advice about possible loss of U.S. nationality and dual nationality.
Greetings, Joe, and welcome, John. How you doing?
Hello, Keith. Doing great. Thanks for doing another great show.
Thanks. Always appreciate it. And remember, all glory goes to God. And Joe, the link's down there if you want to pop up and interject or anything. Always appreciate your support.
Don't give me any legal advice. And again, I remind you to remember the turning guns into doorknobs. The video I did about Gary Davis, who also did the exact same thing as Jesus, disclaimed a nationality. Said he didn't have to take.
And that's what we're talking about with the nationality and being foreign sovereign and having certain immunities. Is that Gary Davis is the guy that developed the World Service Organization that put out the world passports. And what he did was in 1949, after he realized that the United States had duped him into becoming a member of that war, and he decided he was going to expatriate and not go back to America. Well, that kind of limited his sovereign immunities and the ability to travel as a sojourner with our Father which art in heaven. That's what makes us foreign. We are foreign in the spiritual element, even to the manual element. But now we're dealing with a personal element, and we are definitely foreign to the third-party fiction.
Take notice of that census. So let's take a look at the foreign sovereign.
Greetings, New York native. How you doing tonight, brother?
Salute, brother. I'm all right, bro.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Feel free to interject anytime you want. I'll stop and pause.
No problem, bro.
Immunities Act, as it states in the U.S. Code. 28 U.S. Code, Chapter 97, jurisdictional immunities of foreign states, judiciary and judicial procedure, jurisdiction and venue. Now, remember, I told you at the enumeration at birth, they create a state vital statistic jurisdiction, which is exclusive to each individual, and that jurisdiction is identified by a name and a number. The name and number.
And like I said, that's an exclusive jurisdiction to the individual, because everybody might, everybody is generally going to have a different name, but there might be more than one Keith Little, and they could go to the middle initial, but they don't really use the middle initial because they in fact use the number that goes with that legal name, the first and last name. So you can have two Keith Littles, you can even have 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, but they're all going to have a different number. This is what they're routing everything through, is the number, not the name. Greetings, Joe. How you doing tonight?
Greetings, Pimp. I'm doing well, and I'm sorry. At some point, I had a good conversation about right to travel, and well, if we get a break here later on, I'd like to ask you some questions on that.
All right, let's get through this video first, and then we'll take that question.
All right.
That's the jurisdiction. It's independent of all others because that name and number is different than all others. It is its own exclusive jurisdiction within the general jurisdiction of the record keeper. Findings and declaration of purpose at 1602, there's definitions. Immunity of a foreign state from jurisdiction. General exceptions to the jurisdictional immunity of a foreign state. Terrorism exception to the jurisdictional immunity of a foreign state.
So what it's saying is that there is an immunity of a foreign state from jurisdiction. In order for them to apply the statutes and executive orders - commercial items, which must be contracts, there has to be an exception of some sort. The general exception is the contracts, but then you have a terrorism exception as well. So this is why I say you have to learn how to coin your words. You better be shutting the fuck up, because they will get you for terrorism in the modern times. I guarantee you. They're doing it left and right. And though, again, a lot of it isn't really terrorism, that's the problem. People are running around babbling. They really don't know what they're saying.
Yes, yeah.
Responsibility of foreign states for international terrorism against the United States. You can't be making a claim against the United States. You can't be making threats against the United States that you're going to disband the government, you know, as it gets close to being stated on programs like, or on platforms like P.I.G.S.C.U.N.T.S.
And this is why I say you got to learn how to be a friend of the United States. And the IRS is, in fact, your friend. These are all tax and insurance issues, and they're being falsely issued. So it's a matter of knowing your position in that trust and saying, hey, they're violating the estate of the beneficiary, posing tax and insurance issues before it's been settled.
Extent of liability. Extent of liability. Outside the internal liability. Counterclaims. Service time to answer default. Immunity from attachment and execution of property.
Service with time to answer default is a matter of the diplomatic channels of notice that we're going to discuss after this video.
Property of a foreign state. See, that's all you have to.
And it's the immunity from attachment and execution of property of a foreign estate. And this is what I was talking about with those indemnifications. They're put in a private placement so the warrant doesn't get sold. And that's what's happening when you use your signature on those instrumentalities. What they're doing is they're selling the contract, the information, the data elements. And the data elements is what's known to warrant the action. It's because of the words that they're using that determines the action. Well, if you don't sell that warrant, then it's in a private placement, and it should, in my opinion, according to my research, it should put up a not subject to intercept. In other words, any kind of contract has to go through the trust and not just be presumed.
How do you get that
You're a
status?
foreign.
How would you get? You have to do something, say something, do something, right?
Right, and that's what we're looking at with the birth certificate is actually a surety bond, and it's claiming that the individual owes a debt to the United States. Well, the United States operates under full faith and credit. So in my interpretation, the thing that's missing that you owe a debt to the United States is the indemnification. They're offering you full faith and credit, but they need a source of credit.
A surety bond.
The surety bond with the credence attached to it, showing that there's a source.
Right. There's just a lot. I'm sorry, El Perro. I'm doing my best, brother, and I'm tuned in. I'm listening, bro. It's just there's a lot of language and a lot of vocabulary that I'm not familiar with, bro. So it's just like it might take me a little second to comprehend.
I'm still trying to catch up too, man. I got here a little late. I'm still trying to catch up too.
No, it's all good, brother. I don't want to interrupt either. I'm just like it's a lot, bro. It's a lot. Like just don't understand, like what this is all about, like.
Yeah. And then the words, we don't hear surety bonds and some of the phrases we hear here in our regular life. Right. So I get it.
Right, because they use the terms ambiguously throughout the jurisdictions. And this is why I go to that. The law is construed to be uniform throughout the jurisdiction. That's what tells me they can use different words in the different jurisdictions. And in so doing, what they're doing is using different grammar styles.
So you think this is all? You think that's all done on purpose, right? In my opinion, I think so. Like that's correct. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for everybody being. Yeah,
it's a Babylonian system.
Right.
It's intent to use the words to confuse you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I'm sorry.
There already exists an immunity, which is the equal station of the judges and the public officials and their immunity. Quit acting like bitch-ass slaves, rising up against them, find out what it truly means to hold an equal station and learn how to stand up in that station. Exceptions to the immunity from attachment or execution. Certain types of property immune from execution. And then you got the editorial notes. Remember I spoke about the editorial notes. Editorial. See, when you have, what is it, additional things? Where was it? Additional. Attachment is the same thing. You're attaching something to another thing, so you're creating an addition. Findings and declaration of purpose. The Congress finds that the determination by United States courts of the claims of foreign states to immunity from the jurisdiction of such courts would serve the interest of justice and would protect the rights of both foreign states and litigants in the United States courts.
That's Congress that finds that the determination by United States courts. So they've discerned it in the United States courts already, and the Congress determined that they find that to be accurate.
Right.
Again, 50 U.S.C. 4305b2, the full acquittance and discharge wherein no person shall be held liable in any court. It is in fact a piece of court itself, and it's stating the same thing in different terms in different places throughout all the different jurisdictions. The law is uniform throughout all jurisdictions, and that claim to peace, again, is the Lord's Prayer. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. So it's not done in the name, it's done in the principle of peace and forgiveness. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil. For thine is the power, the glory, and the grace. He's the one that provides the grace. He's the provider of his favor. Prosperity as it already is. All you got to do is come in peace. If you want equity, you got to come with equity. So again, it says notes.
I want to go back because I want to read that next part there. Because this is important to understand the difference between trust law and contract law. Because as the Congress finds that the determination by United States courts of the claims of foreign states to immunity from jurisdiction of such courts would serve the interest of justice and would protect the rights of both foreign states and litigants in the United States courts, under international law, states are not immune from jurisdiction of foreign courts insofar as their commercial activities are concerned, and their commercial property may be levied upon for the satisfaction of judgments rendered against them in connection with their commercial activities.
Yeah, I hear you.
This is about private activities of trust first. So that's the foreign element. The private trust is distinctly foreign from the public trust. So when we're not making that distinction between the trust and expressing the trust ourselves, then we're implied, presumed, and assumed to be in the performance of commercial activities.
Right.
Got to come with equity. So again, it says notes. Public Law 94, 583, Section 7, October 21st, 1976, 90 Stat 2898, provided. Remember, we just spoke about providence and grace. Who is the true provider? That statute and law provides what? It provides an agreement somewhere. Like I said, it's the Lord's Prayer. Bring that into agreement with everything else, or bring everything else into agreement with that. One way or another, you have to show how they're uniform, and that the uniform under the full armor of God is the true faithful act, and nothing else need be said, written, or spoken. If any provision of this act, enacting this chapter in Section 1330 of this title, amending Sections 1332, 1391, and 1441 of this title, and enacting provisions set out as notes, promises under this section and Section 1 of this title, promises to what? Promises to adhere to the law which it comes from. The original oath that God gave us to seek his counsel, or the application thereof to any foreign state is held invalid. The invalidity does not affect other provisions or applications of the act, which can be given effect without the invalid provision or application. And to this end, the provisions of this act are severable.
This is Title 20. This is Title 28. What's Title 28?
No idea.
28 U.S. Code is judicial, I believe. Oh, it's the Admiralty. Organization of the courts on land. It's the Admiralty, Supreme Court.
So, real quick, in layman's terms, what does that mean for us?
Yeah.
Well, the Admiralty is the law of the land. Okay? In the law of the land, you have trust law. And what they're doing is under this title, it's a statute or executive order, that's contract. So if you want to follow this guideline, then you waive your foreign sovereign immunity.
Yeah.
So it has to be held invalid. Why? Because it's inauthentic to claim myself to be either a resident or a United States citizen. And that's all been accidents throughout my life because I didn't have good comprehension. Now that I've done my research, I know that a United States citizen is a United States business. And I've never, ever filed nor even been educated in how to file the proper requisite paperwork to be permitted to do business.
Right.
I am incompetent. My competency is incompetent of your legal system.
And I think you're saying that if they put you in there, it goes against God. If they just decide to put you in there without your permission, it goes against God. It's invalid.
Right. It goes against my talents. I don't have the talents to account for the records like you do. I don't have the talents to account for the taxes like you do. I don't have a talent for keeping track of the insurance like you do. So I've got my word is my bond. My yea is my yea, my nay is my nay. Now, in that, I understand that I can rightly divide the word of truth. And I see here that it says you're the principal. And in that, as being a principal in that public trust, the beneficiary is deemed to be the true owner. And since I'm not involved in the contract specifically, that means I'm a third party to the two people that are in the contract. That's the third party beneficiary.
I was about to say, does that third party mean that you're the beneficiary of something?
Correct. Well, I'm the beneficiary of those public service contracts.
Right. That they're discussing, those two parties are discussing, you're the beneficiary.
Correct.
Meaning, I see
like I said
your
earlier,
rainbow, money at the rainbow shit. I see where that comes from. Because they're discussing a lot of money and so. And fact is, you're discussing corporate shit about a real person who is a beneficiary. It's just that he's asleep. If he's awake, he can snatch all that from you. I think that's what you said.
Correct. The beneficiary is deemed to be the true owner, and it's only the beneficiary that can come in and control a claim for settlement. Nobody else can settle it. They can only defer the payment of the debt because they don't have a valid money system.
Right. So that
when you start being able to take other objective views and look at them and start pulling out the things that don't belong there, what's left is what creates a solid foundation of objective views that are held common in belief. Still a belief, though. It's just held to be more true and accurate, or more correct and accurate, closer to being true. And I believe those links are down below for anybody that wants to check them out. In the meantime, again, remember, folks, you have to learn how to stand up. You have to have a principle to stand on first.
So that's the basics of it, is understanding that they have exceptions, and one of those exceptions is already, the exceptions aren't implemented until you enter into the statutes. If you're not involved in those statutes, then the sovereign immunity is already there.
It's held and understood. It holds. Once you start entering contracts with them, there are suddenly exceptions to the immunity that you previously held. I get it.
Correct.
And you went over some of those exceptions, terrorism.
And contracting. Anytime you contract, that's an exception to foreign sovereign immunities, because now you're contracting with a domestic entity and you're making an agreement to waive that sovereign immunity.
It's logical.
So what's your thing about the travel then?
Well, I wanted my best arguments for right to travel. I'm not that bright. I thought it would be spelled out somewhere in the Constitution directly, and I couldn't find it yesterday while I was arguing with somebody. So what are some of the arguments for right to travel? I already assumed that it's inherent under God and all of that thing, but is there something legal that I could point to that guarantees the right to travel?
We're going to pull up. I just played Carl Miller in the last video. Let me find him.
Shit, man, I gotta charge. I gotta charge a little bit. I'm gonna be listening though. I'll be in the background.
This is good shit. The right to travel. Most of this is probably shit that the layman can understand too. I've been trying to figure this shit out too.
Nah, definitely. I'm here though.
All right,
I'm here. I'm just gonna be charging my phone.
Stay safe, man. I thought I saw you walking down the street, so you be safe out there.
Yeah, nah, I'm home now. I'm home now. Appreciate that, brother.
Yep.
Peace to you.
Peace.
Okay. Let's see here. Where are we at? 5620. Okay.
What is the other buddies up here? Who's up me left? Robert and John. Just so I know. Are you cats? If you're in here, I assume that you got some education on this right to travel shit. I was assuming that you guys know something about this shit too. John and Robert.
Yeah, I've been pulled over. Know that.
Okay. Here is Carl Miller, and I just did this video a couple hours ago. We went over some shorts, and this is a short from Carl Miller explaining exactly what you're talking about, Joe.
All right.
Oops. Get the right screen. Oh, dang it.
This guy's a mouthful too. He's quick.
Who, Carl Miller or
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Carl Miller, yeah.
He's well versed.
Okay, good. I'll Google him or something. We got no sound yet, was it? By the way, since it's taking you a second to get it, this is what started the conversation. Someone sent me, I think it's this clip that I have no idea who he is, sent me this clip yesterday, and it got me started. I believe this is the clip. I even looked into the 3 laws that he is talking about.
Okay, so yeah, you're familiar with it. Yeah, that's the foundation of their what's called black letter law or case law. It's set out 3 times, and it cannot be rebutted, hasn't been rebutted yet, and therefore all of these courts that are denying it are in violation of their oath. These 3 cases are in the Library of Congress. They reference the Constitution, and they are constitutionally bound.
I read them. The first one, I don't remember the name of it, but I think it was about someone who was trying to get some benefits. And they were saying that the right for her to get these were you couldn't be fucked with. It was a right. You couldn't fuck with it. And they said, just like the right to travel, they mentioned it 4 or 5 times. I got screenshots. I looked up the law, the ruling itself, and they were assuming that the right to travel. And so I see their argument. I thought it was a good one. I don't remember the other 2. They don't come to me. But they were already assuming that the right to travel was guaranteed. I couldn't assume it. I couldn't find it myself. But they were saying that just like the right to travel, you can't fuck with this lady's right to so-and-so.
Right. And that's the same thing with the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. It's already there. The assumption is already there that you're immune. But the exception to immunity is that you entered into a contract. Or the exception to the immunity is that you created a terroristic threat or an act.
Right. I need to find that my immunity, like you just spelled out, it's in the law. My immunity, if I am a non-citizen of these places in the so-and-so Sovereign Immunities Act of so-and-so, where does it spell out that I have immunity when actually, we got into this too. It does say right to travel, but the states have written it where you have the right to travel to different states. And their argument was, it doesn't guarantee that how you get there. I can still tax you and take your money on your way, but you have the right to go to Ohio and you have the right to go to Kansas. Doesn't mean I don't get to rob you. P.I.G.S.C.U.N.T.S, you'll certainly be able to help us out.
Absolutely. Greetings, brother. How you doing tonight?
Greetings. I'm doing good. Good to see you again.
Yeah. P.I.G.S.C.U.N.T, we talked about that right to travel. I was looking, where is it in the Constitution and law that I have that right? That's what we were discussing.
We're definitely on the right platform, but we'll let him get back to it here.
Yeah, we'll go over Carl Miller because it's a great little video here. So we'll let this play through, and everybody else can get those 3 cases again. I think the first one is Shuttlesworth versus Birmingham.
Okay. We still ain't got no sound yet, Keith. I don't have any sound. You guys can hear this?
No.
Yeah, we can hear it. You can't hear this?
No.
Okay. We'll do this. Drop out, come back. And that is... Which one was it? Ah, this one. Okay.
You're right. This is similar to what you're talking about, the immunities stuff. Looks like you got the right to go where you want, just like that's saying you have to fuck it up by signing some type of contract.
Yep. Very clear questioning.
Yes, sir.
You hear
Let
that?
me ask you this. Do you have any plates
Yep.
on your car? I says, no, sir. And I don't intend to get any. And of course,
He stated his intent.
all the people in the court, oh, this guy's going to jail. Watch this. This is going to be good. He says, I assume you have a very good reason for that.
I assume. The language is specific. These judges know it. I assume you have a very good reason for saying.
He knew what he was doing.
I
Yeah, he
said,
knew.
yeah, sir, and I shut up. I waited. He said, can I hear it? I said, well, Your Honor, I said, I travel at the common law. I have a right to travel freely and unencumbered pursuant to Shapiro versus Thompson, and that right is so basic it doesn't even need to be mentioned. The state of Michigan arbitrarily and erroneously converted my right into a privilege
And issued a license. Shapiro versus
Thompson.
Thompson.
and issued a license plate and a fee for it. Murdoch versus Pennsylvania says no state may convert a secured liberty into a privilege.
Murdoch versus Pennsylvania State.
Says no state can convert a secure liberty into a privilege. However, is traveling secured.
It is. It is once you get a license. It's a security instrument. That's the exception. If you think you have to secure your right to travel, they have a right to license it.
Okay. Right.
If you know you don't have to secure your right to travel because you're a stranger and sojourner with him, and he preserves your going out and coming in from this time forth, then fuck them. See, that's scripture.
A fee for it. And if they do, Shuttlesworth versus Birmingham, Alabama says I can ignore the license and engage in the right with impunity.
Now that one I gotta look up. What versus Alabama?
That's Shuttlesworth versus Birmingham, Alabama.
That sounds like the one I need to look up.
And this is what I'm using against them for this supposed trespass thing that they issued supposedly the other day. And I've gotten nothing but an officer getting up in my face and trying to intimidate me and telling me I've been trespassed. And in the meantime, since I know it's not true and it's not law, I keep going back and forth across that parking lot with impunity. Come get me, motherfuckers.
You got tape of that? I got a cop watch channel.
Well, I've been, anytime I go back and forth, I've got my phone at the ready now, so.
Yeah.
Sound like you one of those YouTube lawyers.
Yeah, I'm one of those. So the next one I got, guys, does that help you out, Joe?
It does, and I'm looking up now. It looks like Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth was leading a protest without a permit, which goes to what you said. If you're under God, you don't need permits. Was improper because the ordinance under which he was convicted was unconstitutional prior restraint on free speech. Yes, and it sounds like to me, it sounds logical that we have free ability to move about. In fact, I found that in there somewhere. One of the articles, freedom of movement is how they said it. That was guaranteed under the Constitution.
That's what I said. Your freedom of movement is relative to your freedom of manifestation, because you get to move your intangible thoughts into the real world and make them active, have a certain effect. This is a man is bound by his words. So be careful what you say.
I did see another video. I couldn't find it last night to support my argument. Guy goes in there fighting a ticket. There was no tags on his plates or something, no plates. And he crushed that female judge. She didn't even get, she wanted him to say, well, we just want to know, you know, we'll do it later. We just want to know if you're guilty or not. And he was like, well, man, I need to know which jurisdiction. There are three, technically four, but one of them covers two. And is it on this? Is it that makes it criminal? Yes. And he asked her a few questions. She's like, you know what, just go in the interest of justice. We're going to just drop it. We'll just keep the fines that you paid. He was like, is it on the record that this court has dismissed my charges? He said, yes, it is. He's like, well, those fines are some type of held trust and so. Just give them money, give them the money. She didn't even want to hear it, bro. She was afraid, in my opinion.
Yep.
That interests me.
Yeah, and Zarowski Institute states it quite well. The right not to contract. These are forced contracts. And that's why I bring up 18 U.S.C. 1589, forced labor. And that is merely the definition of abuse or threatened abuse of the law or legal system, whether administrative, civil, or criminal, for a purpose that is not designed, is the same as the use or threatened use.
Wait. I can use that in my job, Joe, because I always quote 18, 241, 242 under color of law, fucking with your rights. But what was that one you just said?
18 U.S.C. 1589.
1589.
I don't know why that didn't take, but
forced labor.
Yep. And I'm going to drop it down there for everybody. And there you go. 18 U.S.C. 1589 is forced labor. And when you read that language, they're not even supposed to be using those codes against you, because they're all contracts under 48 CFR 52.212-5 for acquisitions for federal government, because it's federal acquisitions regulations. So they are using these contracts as forced contracts to force you in labor, either an employment contract or some kind of contract postal unit through the address change, all kinds of stuff. Those are all contracts. Every last one of them. You signed a name. So let's take a look at this one. This is the diplomatic channels of notice. Now, this is your postal service, and this is 22 CFR 93.1. Diplomatic notice or channels of notice. These are military posts, and you have the right diplomatic in diplomacy, neutrality, amnesty, peace. These are all treaty things. So let's go into it.
Hey, greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Check my pages here real quick, make sure everything. All right. I think I got everything, and we are set to go. So what we're going to talk today, folks, is the service of process in these courts and everything, and how it's misconstrued. Because as I've been saying, you cannot possibly be a United States citizen if there is no birth registration for such citizenship. So it's all a matter.
So when you fill out that change of address form, you're filing for receiver of service as a contract postal unit, a primary place of residence used for business.
They're delegating powers through seceding to other powers. The state ceded their jurisdiction to that of the United States, which the United States is a debtor and is located in Washington, D.C., who has no statehood. And this simple thing, simple comprehension, everybody should be able to comprehend that they are foreign to everything else. You have your own authority, you have your own power, and it isn't until you cede your jurisdiction to that other power that you give up that sovereignty, the sovereign choice.
You don't cede your jurisdiction if you don't sign those contracts. But as soon as you sign those contracts, that's a ceding of jurisdiction, just like the state ceded their jurisdiction to the United States by signing that original contract.
And we've all been indoctrinated into believing otherwise. We've all been indoctrinated into believing that these laws that they put forth are for us, and they are just, and they're not. So we're going to talk about that as it relates to the United States.
They're unconscionable because you weren't conscious of them. You didn't know of them yourself. It's not them that's unconscionable. It's you. Recognize that first, and then you'll see where they're unconscionable as well. It is a quid pro quo. We are all equally guilty. But it's only you that can correct it, and it's only you that's going to have the motivation to correct it. If it's working fine for them so they can take a paycheck home at the end of the week, then it works fine for them. They don't see any problem with it.
The State's Postal Service, the registered agent, and the administrative courts for the judicial discretions. And what we have before you is 22 CFR 93.1, service through the diplomatic channel, through the diplomatic channel. And this is titled.
And that's specific. Okay, remember the language. Those little words are important. It doesn't say service through a diplomatic channel. It says service through the diplomatic channel. There's one, the diplomatic channel. Who has exclusive jurisdiction but the Postal Service? The registered agent, the diplomatic channeling place.
22, which is Foreign Relations, Chapter 1, Department of State, Subchapter J, Legal and Related Services, Part 93, Service on Foreign State. So every time that somebody goes and admits it.
So they are admitting that they're making service on a foreign state. You don't sue your mom and dad, do you? Most people don't. You sue the neighbor, somebody that's foreign. It's a basic concept.
That they're a resident and or both a United States citizen, they are claiming they're part of that association and therefore are not a foreign state.
And therefore are domestic and fall under the Constitution for national security, domestic tranquility, and general welfare. You may as well say farewell.
And this is inherently backwards. You cannot be a part of that association unless you are a federal, state, municipal officer or agent whose resident presence is deemed necessary by the board. If you don't qualify there, you cannot be part of that association. It's a big club and you ain't in it.
You have to be deemed necessary. You volunteering that information all your life is the inauthentic claim itself. Now that you know it's inauthentic, you need to make an authentic claim. The greater truth is that I'm not a resident for income tax purposes at the state level because I'm not a federal, state, or municipal officer or agent whose resident presence is deemed necessary by the board. And I can't be a United States citizen, which is known as a United States business, because I wasn't born in the United States, because the United States is located in Washington, D.C., and is merely the record. And it's the individual's name and number that identify the record that was birthed into that record. Birthed. It was a log. It was a log into a general journal and a general ledger.
A forced labor.
Yes. Contract unit. Raised and presumed to be a servant of the state. No one's ever taught us that.
Right.
Mom and dad just keep sending us to public education system, generation after generation.
Says you are a citizen, go get a job, save money so you can make the bankers rich, then buy something like a big ass house so you can be in debt the rest of your life.
Yeah, you got to make all them happy and show them that you're capable of running money schemes in order for them to reward you so you can live a nice, wealthy life.
Yes.
So let's take a look at it. It says, the Director of the Office of Special Consular Services in the Bureau of Consular Affairs, Department of State, the Managing Director of Overseas Citizen Service, shall perform the duties of the Secretary of State under Section 1608A4 of Title 28 United States Code. When the clerk of the court concerned sends documents under Section 1608A4 of Title 28 United States Code, the Managing Director of Overseas Citizen Service shall promptly ascertain if the documents include the required copies of the notice of suit and of the summons and complaint or default judgment, and any required translations.
Any required translations.
There's that
Yep. I want to know what language you're using here so I can get the proper translator. Because the only thing I can refer to in my common law capacity is the English major that I will put on the stand to testify as to whether that's the plain writing that I'm capable of comprehending, or if it's a foreign language, such as legalese, which I am incompetent.
Meaning what? Meaning they would have to provide you a translator?
Absolutely. And that translator would have to be able to translate it in such a way that I would have to be able to believe that it does in fact apply to me.
Right.
You can't do that if I'm not a United States business.
Yeah, that translator will have a tall task. I agree.
That's what lawyers do, right? They translate and file. That's all they do.
They translate it into legalese.
Dope. That's right. That's what they're doing. They're taking some common, they translate it as legalese and present it. Yeah.
And what is the enumeration at birth? But the process of translating things into legalese to create the foundation of the legal name.
Which makes it seems like dude said, it had to be, native said it had to be trickery by design. Why convolute a language that already exists unless you intend to use it for certain purposes?
Well, think of the term naturalization itself, folks. If you are already natural,
right,
then what is the purpose of a naturalization process?
It's nonsense. It doesn't hold logic.
Exactly. So do I need a enumeration at birth, or is that the thing that caused the issue to begin with? Is that the exception?
I like it.
See, there's an exception to the naturalization process, and that is the fact that the naturalization process is a legal process and not a natural process. So it defies the very fact that I am already natural. I am already foreign to the legal entity that they're establishing.
You would think that the word itself speaks for itself, but for them to take it and change its meaning and shit, it reeks of nefariety, in my opinion.
Fundamentally different in nature.
Yeah, and it brings
the minute you accept color, they've got you. I'm white, I'm black, I'm Indian.
Yeah, and it brings in that unconscionability.
You're of no color. I don't know what color.
What does mean? Oh, that's what you mean. The moment you accept color. That's another thing. I may say, hey, you see my friend? He's over there. He's a tall black guy or the short white guy. To me, it's a descriptor. But to someone else, it means your race. It means you're so and so, and if you have these rights, and it's
poison. It's poison to the mind.
Yep.
Don't involve it in your contracts.
Now, if you're not particular of the legalese, then it must be translated into concise English. Again, you're not a part of that club. Quick.
And so when they take your concise English and translate it into legalese, what did they do? They made an unlawful conversion. So when I give them a given name, Keith, and I hail from the family Little, I hear I was born around August 20th, 1966. Now, if they translate that into legalese and put it down as first name and last name and a birth date, guess what?
That's on them.
Yes. Claiming that you are. If not, he shall promptly advise the clerk of the missing items. Upon receiving the required copies of documents in any required translations, the managing director for overseas citizen service shall promptly cause one copy of each such document and translation, the documents, to be delivered. So when you're born in a spell of illness and they create documentation of citizenship, that is a false entry into their association with prerequisites that have not been determined and cannot be determined for another 18 years.
And that's the entrance into the forum by mom and then delivered.
Yes.
That's why they call it delivery.
Yeah.
So you spend the 18 years being indoctrinated that proper or that documentation is proper and valid when it's not.
It's an inauthentic claim.
And the links to all these are down below, so you can read the rest of them. It's going to give you the authorities. Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, 1976.
This is where they get this is what governs this whole system, is the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. Not I did the video last night on Foreign Sovereign Immunities, Joe. And when we went over that, it tells us it's the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act that governs. Really? Not the Constitution, not the Administrative Code. Those are statutes and executive orders. foreign sovereign immunities are already presumed without those such processes. So by them trying to use those processes, they're saying that there's an exception to your foreign sovereign immunity. Therefore, they have to prove the exception. They have to prove the contract, or they have to prove the terroristic act.
To section 1608A that they reference above of 28 U.S.C. 1608. We're going to take a look at that here in a minute. But the next one we're going to look at, again under Title 42, is the notice of suit or default judgment. The notice of suit or default judgment. A notice of suit prescribed in 1608A of Title 28 United States Code shall be prepared in the form that appears in the annex to this section.
So when they're sending you a notice through the mail, folks, that third-party debt collector came after you and went to court, and they send you a notice in the mail, says default judgment. Guess what? They're recognizing that you're foreign, but they're saying there's an exception to the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act.
That's dope. That's dope.
Because there's a contract at play. What is the contract? Is it really your contract?
Why do you say it assumes you're foreign through the gate?
It's a default contract they sent you. They said
Well,
it to you.
it's under 22 CFR 93.2, which is foreign brain fart.
It don't matter the exact number. I hear the logic. That's all I was asking anyway.
But that alone, just by sending a default notice, is letting you know that they recognize a foreign element. But that foreign element of being foreign sovereign, being a foreign sovereign and being immune has an exception, and they're giving you notice of that exception somewhere. So when you read that language and you find out they've misplaced the creditor, that's the flip. See, they're saying there's an exception because you're a debtor. No. I'm the beneficiary of the public trust. Therefore, the beneficiary being deemed to be the true owner, you've made a claim of debt against the one that hired you. See, the grantor grants a trust. The trustor creates the trust and assigns the trustee.
Who grants this trust?
The
birth
public trust
and all of that. The birth certificate, whatever that is, with
that's done under public service, a presumption. Greetings, folks. Sorry, I didn't see you guys back there. I'm sorry if I left you hanging back too long. How you doing, folks?
That tribe is on the fuck head.
Yes, that's tribe.
Yeah,
tribe. Here in the Appalachian Mountains, like I told you I'd be, Wizard.
Nice,
right.
Nice.
Good shit, tribe. Good shit.
Beautiful country, isn't it, brother? Absolutely.
Reception's really bad, so I'll pretty much be in the background here checking out the presentation here.
Awesome. Glad to have you here, brother. Keep showing us that scenery. So
bright dude too, right? Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I say, the presumption is already laid. There, what is done is what ought be done. There is nothing new under the sun, and that's what they're going on.
What about the citizen slave, the willing slave? That's under these presumptions? I was about to ask, does he need to sign a contract? But even the willing slave is born under contract, so that'd be irrelevant.
Right, and that's why we have to let them know that they're using an exception that can't apply because it wasn't applicable until after age of majority. And the record shows that they put the exception on the record before you had that opportunity.
Yeah, how can it be giving contracts to kids?
Right. That's what I said the other day. I was contracting as a child as an independent contractor with a news source, newspaper company
right.
At the age of 10, writing checks and cashing checks.
That's right.
Huh? So,
in preparing a notice of suit, a party shall in every instance supply the information specified in items 1 through 5 of the form appearing in the annex to this section. A party shall also supply information, supply information specified in item 6 if a notice of default judgment is being served. In supplying the information specified in item 5, a party shall in simplified language summarize the nature and purpose of the proceeding, including principal allegations and claimed basis of liability. See, when you
That's the subject matter. And when they have an inauthentic claim, they lose subject matter. If in that inauthentic claim they can't name the real party in interest as the plaintiff, they don't have personal jurisdiction either.
There we go.
When you bring a suit, you have to claim a basis of liability. So when they bring a suit against you on a basis of liability, there's one code that says the authorized representative giving an unambiguous authorized signature on the instrument is therefore not liable for the person named in the instrument. So when they start,
and this is why you have to make it unambiguous. You have to be able to clarify your standing in the signature by letting them know if you're the grantee, the trustee, or the benefactor.
Right.
And notice the grantee and trustee are fictional. They end in EE, and benefactor ends in factor. You're the ones putting the fact on the table. You're the real party in interest. The beneficiary is the one that receives from the benefactor, and that's always the record because you're giving the record data elements. That's what the beneficiary receives, the data elements. And it's the beneficiary, that record, that is being used against you. So just correct the record. I'm sorry, I've been giving data elements to the beneficiary that says I'm the trustee. My apologies.
I am the beneficiary.
Right. Yeah, I'm the benefactor to the beneficiary. I've been entering data elements as if though I'm the trustee and therefore liable to the beneficiary.
Right.
And that's the wrong placement.
All right. If you sign this document, whatever it is, and or correct the record, and you tell them, my bad, I've been entering as a trustee, I'm actually the beneficiary. Do you have to make different actions now? Is there certain contracts now that you said that you cannot enter into or should not enter into?
Right. And I say I already put out my statement of separation in regards to those public records and my signatures and stuff as it correlates to the general espionage rules or laws and the Trading with the Enemies Act. Yeah. I'm not required to identify as whether you're trading with an enemy or not because I'm not in the contract. I'm the beneficiary or the benefactor who's supposed to receive the benefit. And that is already known and evidenced by the enumeration at birth in admiralty that shows I was born on the land and that a record was birthed into maritime law.
Wait, which one are the courts under?
They're under admiralty maritime. They get a choice.
That's both land and sea.
Right. They get a choice of jurisdictions. It's called forum shopping.
So do you.
Yep.
You can
get
a choice you want.
Right. Choice of law. It's called choice of law. Yep.
What people, it's hard. Like I said last night, it was hard for me to wrap my head around. You have to leave. I mean, leave all your shit and like an actor, come back as a different person. I mean, literally, it'll all be on the documents you create and you put out there. And then you have to stand on those documents. That's the hardest part, is knowing it in your heart. But you come back, you don't need to go fill out a bunch of forms and all this shit to get this done. All you need to do is leave everything and come back a blank sheet of paper.
Well, how do
for me, that was easy.
Are you talking about? Well, you saying it. Are you speaking metaphorically? Are you speaking leave and come back over a period of time?
No, I'm talking about just spiritually, metaphorically, paper-wise.
Okay. All right.
Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Become a new person, damn near, I think is what you're saying. No, I think Keith would agree with you. He is saying that he was saying earlier that as long as you know that you're under God and those things, that would be the equivalent of what you're saying. You got to leave and come back a different person.
And that's the most important thing through this whole process is your words. Keep them simple. Read what they are writing, what you are reading. Read it good and break up those words, and pretty soon it'll just come to you. Boom, 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 boom. And when you write contracts, use those words. Break them up as you're writing. It'll make sense to you. One day it'll just go, fuck, wow. That's how it works for me.
Yeah, I agree too, because that's the way it's worked for me in practicing the abatements on envelopes and then getting into writing them private notices, and paying very particular attention to the wordage. or the verbiage. And this is why I say when I get a bill from the local community of medical associates saying that they're going to prevent my companion from receiving any services unless she pays the bill, and I ask them for a true bill, they send me this document with all these numbers on it, and then never give any kind of dollar sign or anything like that. It becomes a mathematical equation that is impossible to discern. So you accept it for zero value, letting them know that it is an insane mathematical equation that no one, all right, letting them know that no one could possibly figure it out, and therefore it has zero value. Now, what are they going to do? They're going to try to send you another bill. That's double jeopardy. It's already been judged. My yay is my yay, my nay is my nay. You accepted it and acquiesced. And it's been almost 3 years now, over almost $1,800 worth of little bills and stuff they were trying to tack onto her. Ain't gonna work.
Placating when you signed it. No.
With that being done, we still have to basically. I know that it sounds weird they're coming at us with that, but if we just don't respond to it, let's say we just leave it or write them a letter, whatever, and we don't actually securitize it, it's floating around where people can open it up. It's like you open up somebody's mail and read, oh wow, it's a trip.
Right.
We need to securitize those and put a stop to them. Just put a stop to it, because that's part of all of this. Getting your authority in order.
Again, if you go back to the basic claim of enumeration at birth is an inauthentic claim because it's impossible. I am not a United States business, as that term is defined, as a United States citizen, which I volunteered all my life as a resident, which means which is supposed to be deemed necessary by a board. All that's false. I've been incompetent of this knowledge until now, and now that I know it, I can't give that number out anymore. I can't make those kind of professions anymore. I can't profess to be a professional businessman. I'm not. I'm incompetent.
And that security bond has been opened up to everybody and anybody. So there's a lot hooked to it. Yeah.
Yep.
We have to get control.
Picture proves that I'm not liable because I was authorized by you to do so. Okay? You handed me the application. I signed it because you said it was valid. You hold the liability. You hold the record. All I did was sign it. The purpose of Item 5 is to enable foreign officials unfamiliar with American legal documents to ascertain the above information. A party may attach additional pages to the notice of suit to complete information.
American legal documents. Again, see the aspect of the foreign element to the United States? It's the American interests in regards as it relates to the internationally protected person known as a United States business, which is the conference of the nationality of a United States citizen. Again, no one was ever born in the United States, and there is no such record.
Under any item, a party, it doesn't say the plaintiff, but a party may attach additional pages to the notice of suit to complete information under any item. A party shall attach as part of the notice of suit a copy of the Foreign State Immunities Act of 1976. So it's telling you right there, all you have to do is place the supplemental facts on the record that there was an error in the entry upon the enumeration at birth under a spell of illness. This is all termed
inauthentic claim. Here's the information that warrants it. I'm going to keep this information and grant indemnification. And my indemnification and my private placement as warrant is according to the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. Here's your notice.
Terms that they use in their code and attach the foreign state sovereign immunities.
So in other words, when we're putting forth these indemnification things, we have to present that Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, and that's what governs, and that's why we're granting the indemnification, because the surety bond is the foreign element that's been attached.
You have to place a change form.
Right, and they've made an inauthentic claim. And just like the thing the other day where it showed the bank makes a claim, but you have a superior claim. So here's the same situation. You have a superior claim. Again, because that's a decedent estate, which is a minor estate, and you are the superior estate. You are the first in line.
Exactly. Explaining to them that I'm not a part of this association. I was never deemed a resident by necessity by the board. In any case, it was done through an implication of an enumeration at birth, stating that I was a resident the day I was born, and that is in fact an impossibility.
And an inauthentic claim.
Pure and simple. So let's look at the annex. Relevant only if items 4 and 6 indicate that a default judgment has occurred. 1. Title of legal proceeding, full name of court, case or docket number. So number 1 is relevant only if items 4 and 6 indicate that a default judgment has occurred. Name of foreign state or political subdivision concerned. Now, if they're naming a foreign state or political subdivision concerned, that's in regards to a foreign trade zone. So again, if you're using that trade zone, the zip code and the address in formation of an express trust and claiming that you're a citizen or a resident of the United States or one of the states of the United States, then that would be a false doing. You should not be.
And that's the minimum state contacts. You're saying you're in contact with the state, and this is how. That's the exception. Somewhere along there, it's presumed that you waived your foreign sovereign immunities, which is a right, title, or interest in the name that you signed over in blank.
Be doing that. In my sincere opinion. Identity of the other parties. Now, the problem with that third one is that they use a identification of a party and imply that it's yourself, the living soul, and that is not true. The individual's name and number identify a record. So if the individual's name and number identify a record, what does the number identify? It identifies an order in which the record is constructed. What does the name identify? The name still only identifies a legal entity because it was a translation of the given and family name to begin with. Let me go back and read that.
Joe, when it comes to Mitch, you say, what fiduciary responsibilities does the cop take on by getting your name? Well, he's putting information onto a citation, which is eventually going to be securitized through the state securities laws. And that means he is the drawer or maker of an instrument paid to the order of, or a promise. And that's a promissory note. And that's what they specifically use the term, you promise to appear. You is an individual who owes a debt to the United States. So when they say you promise to appear, it's claiming a debt to the United States through a state securities law, and they're issuing it as the drawer. They're going to draw it up, and you're going to sign it in blank as the authorized representative taking on the liability for the debt of the United States.
So that's making up a draft of a instrumentality or
Yep.
Or application of instrumentality, and then you're saying on the drawing part of it is where you attached your signature in the document, and then they become the holder. Am I hearing you correctly?
They draw up the instrument. Okay, they put all their citation violations on there. Then they hand it to you. Okay, now you as holder in due course with the right to enforce it, don't sign it properly as the beneficiary. So it goes as a blank endorsement, and that's presumed that you're the trustee. Then you hand it back to him, and now he's the holder of an instrument that you signed in blank as trustee. That puts him as the beneficiary.
Well, what's the position if no documentation is handed over so you can at least hold to sign? Then what is that position?
It's applied that you've contracted with him, because they call it the 3 strikes rule. And like in baseball, they either license, registration, hands on the wheel, window down, look at me, look ahead, whatever it is, you have to agree. What they call it, P.I.G.S.C.U.N.T.S, I think, something like that.
Yep.
By 3 things. That's why they always ask you 3 distinct things. And simply don't be rude, but I pulled over to help you out, man. I saw your lights on me. What can I do to assist you? And that's how you take control of it. But that's how the contract is implied through their, not mine, through their code, statutes, rules, and regulations by the 3 strikes. Us agreeing to, it could be 3 simple things: blow your nose, whatever.
So that's an implied interpretation.
It's by implied consent. Like
they're allowed to use their own discernment.
At that point, you've already agreed to their game, so you don't have to sign that document. But that's only if we let it escalate. I'm just saying that's where they get their legality from. I know, God, I had to find that out the hard way. So.
Yep. And yeah, that's exactly what it is. Secondary liabilities. That's what happens in everything. There's a primary liability. In your signature, you take on that liability as a secondary party, and then everybody else takes the benefit. Once you learn how to qualify that signature without prejudice, paid to the order of, you're going to find a different effect.
We will never be in that situation again.
I hope not.
Now, Keith, what is the premise? You said on a lot of your cases you did, I think it's UCC-1-308. How is that different from what you're talking about now?
Because the language is specific, and we're finding out that you can use 1-308 to refer to something, but it remains unambiguous. Whereas specific language such as without recourse, without prejudice, paid to the order of, is that reservation of rights and removing the liabilities. Specific wording.
Don't show up to court. Don't show up to court.
Right. Do it all through the mail, diplomatic channels of notice.
You have 3 days to do that. So you get your documents in order, and just don't do shit. Just have your shit in order.
Yep.
True story.
Upon receiving the required copies of documents and any required translations, the Managing Director for Overseas Citizen Service shall promptly cause one copy of each such document and translation to be delivered to the Embassy of the United States in the foreign state concerned. See, you're the natural being.
See, and that's why I say the Adjutant General at the State Embassy is the one responsible for all operations and administrations of the board or of the local board or boards within its jurisdiction. It's an embassy matter. It's an international matter right from the start. You're already recognized as foreign to the state or the United States. That means it's international.
Everything else is foreign. Comprehend that. Number 4, nature of documents served. Summons and complaint, default judgment. The nature of the documents as a summons is saying that they're summoning you as part of their association, when that, again, is not so. They're saying that they placed a default judgment against you when that cannot be possible. If you're not part of the organization and don't have a contract, be doing business with them. 5, nature and purpose of the proceedings. Why the foreign state has been named and the relief requested. So
why the foreign state has been named and the relief requested. So the why is that there's been a penalty of this statute. That means that there has to be contract terms and conditions which are required in order to implement statutes or executive orders concerning commercial items, which is the relief requested is always in commercial form or a certain period of time in jail or prison.
That's why that TDA count or is so important, because it gives you that back. It's like the back door almost, and our documents in the banks that we form them with are the go through. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's important to have that account. So it's
important to establish that account as a foreign account,
yes,
because otherwise it's placed in there as a domestic account for general deposits rather than special deposits of a foreign trust, a foreign grantor
that's
trust.
not a big deal to do.
No.
It's just a little interview. Yeah.
Yep.
Telling you that they are in fact naming a foreign state. You're the one claiming you're not, and that's the problem. You're the one claiming.
You're the one claiming that you're domestically part of the organization as a resident and a United States citizen, when that's not so. That was implied. I agree. We were indoctrinated to believe it. I agree. And we pay for our father's sins. I agree. It's time to stop and correct it. That's all it takes.
claiming that you're a resident and United States citizen. And they're putting forth the nature and purpose of the proceedings as to why a foreign state has been named. And that's the thing to rebut or agree to admit.
The nature and purpose of the proceedings. The nature is in this contract, he had a duty to perform and he didn't, and therefore we're requesting relief in this manner. That's everything they do. That's as simple as that's the simplest way I can put what they do. And then they use legalese to draw it all out to confuse you so you don't see that that's what they're doing. They're saying you have a contract with them. That's one of the two exceptions. Contracts, general, which is the statutes and executive orders that everybody thinks is law. It's just policy. It's rules for government, not you.
Yes, I am a foreign state. I fall under the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. You haven't given proper notice through the diplomatic channels. You're supposed to check with the Bureau of Consular Affairs special counselor to see if, in fact, I have been deemed a resident by necessity, by the board, to perform the functions of officials or agents of the federal, state, or municipal government. If that hasn't occurred and you don't have record of it in that United States, then you ain't got squat.
And this is why we redress the government for grievances, because there's a misidentification through that inauthentic claim. And it's Homeland Security that issues that stuff, that corrects that stuff for your travel through the Travel Security Administration.
Isn't part of
Everything
that
is a presumption,
Homeland
folks. The legal
Security
fiction is
part of that? Oh, isn't part of the Homeland Security part of the immigration what they call? Is that ICJ? Am I correct? What is the initial for that again? For the immigration?
ISIS, ICIS.
Oh, right, ICIS. So they work together. Those two departments work together in this same.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it's remember that chart of state's vital statistics jurisdiction that starts out with the local birth clerk and the obstetrician and the pediatrician at the hospital that took a general journal from the obstetrician that mom had a private contract with. It goes all the way up and down the chain. Everybody in the public official system now has access to those records. Every last one of them.
Presumption is a presumption of the facts presented to a court until properly rebutted.
That's a legal fiction.
Date of default judgment. Date of default judgment. Again, they can't have a default judgment without naming a foreign state, and that foreign state having the opportunity to admit or deny appropriately in private. See, they're not supposed to be taking people and dragging them into a public venue as a foreign state in regards to private concerns.
Especially when they're using an exception and don't prove the exception and leave that as a presumption. Then when you question jurisdiction, oh no, we've got yours. No, you have to express the exception that gives you jurisdiction of subject matter, and you have to express the exception that gives you jurisdiction of a personal matter. You have to do it. If not, I ain't going to believe you, and I sure as hell ain't going to let anybody else believe you.
In any case, none. I want to take a break real quick and thank everybody for your support. Unindoctrinated, Jen, Damsel Medic, Jenny Shively, great to see everybody. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. I am on El Perro, Heckle-Bus, and Keith Little at the time. All 3 YouTube channels are active on this on the videos. I'm going to be
Joshua Jonio, again, a great one. CBP form, Customs and Border Protection Form 214, privileged foreigner. Think about foreign repairs. You bring in your vessel into the United States and you need repair. That's called safe harbor. It's all about safety, folks. Safe harbor.
Be doing that from now on instead of posting to Facebook. So there are 3 channels. Hit the like, share, and subscribe. If you're not on the other 2 channels, get over there and do that as well. Help the algorithms, help these numbers grow, help this information get out there, help people learn to educate themselves in the proper respects of how to operate privately. Quit going into these public venues as if though you think you know what you're doing when you don't. Find out first. In the meantime, there's a couple PayPal links down below in the detail sections. If you want to share some love, please do so through that link. One of those links, every little bit counts, 10, 15.
And that's why I quit everything here years back, because I understood there's something wrong with me going into those courts. And if I can stay out of those courts, all the better. And the only way I could see about staying out of all those courts was disconnect, detach from everything, and just be me as naturally as I could be. and admit in my humbleness and humility that I would have to be dependent upon other people to help me live in this society. In that, I also proved to myself that I can go out in nature in the Appalachian Mountain, live for 7 months in a tent, and not have a care in the world. Do 2 years in the Ozarks and not have a care in the world without the financial system. Remember, folks, I didn't get this PayPal card until about 3 years ago. The first 5 years was nothing but me having to reach out to my fellow man in love to help me live my own fucking life. In that, I learned so much about private contract and private bartering. Listen, pal, I know you're a slob. I'll do your dishes. I'll even cook your fucking meals and shit. I'll vacuum and do all that. I need a place to stay. I know you bring in good money. You'll pay the bills in exchange, right? I don't need to worry about no bills. You don't need to worry about your place looking like a mess. You don't need to worry about your children having to get off to school on time or coming home and getting right to their homework or nothing.
Or open up your bond. Create that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every bit. Let's get back with it. The next one is the service time answer default. This is the 1608 they were talking about. Service, time to answer, and default. See, they're saying that they're providing you service, but it's not through the proper diplomatic channel. When they send it to you through the mail, or when that nice policy officer pulls you over on the road, that's not the proper diplomatic channel. It's supposed to be done through the diplomatic office, the Bureau of Consular Affairs. They're supposed to qualify the record first because the individual's name and number identify a record and not the individual.
And so when they say service, like I said, there is a contract for you to be the receiver of service. And then in that contract as a receiver of service, they're going to give you a certain amount of time to answer. This is what Robert was talking about, 3 days. And then we have this little term here, default.
So there's
what is fault? Well, that's the inauthentic claim. They're already in fault. And they're posing a default saying it's your fault now.
To qualify the record first. And so by you pulling over alongside the road and that officer asking for your ID, you handing that ID that says you're a United States citizen and resident, you're the one that's putting false entries into the record. You need to quit it. You need to correct that record according to the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. This is something I pulled up 7 years ago when I first started doing this. It's the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, and you're not giving the proper notice to them that, hey, there's something wrong in the record. I'm not part of your state. I'm not part of your club. Okay? And it says service in the courts of the United States and of the states shall be made upon a foreign state or political subdivision of a foreign state by delivery of a copy of the summons and complaint in accordance with any special arrangements or service between the plaintiff and the foreign state or political subdivision. So now
that's the minimum state contact. The young man goes out, he's 18, going to go out and get his own place, so he's got to have a change of address in order to get his own place and have rent or have utilities and everything and start signing those contracts. He's got to have minimum a state ID or driver license. So he's got to go get that Social Security card and a birth certificate, go down to the DMV to get that. Oops. Minimum state contacts, not required, all volunteered, and you never deemed necessary by the board, and yet that's what that is posing. You got to have this stuff so you can prove that you're a resident and a United States citizen.
You know, since you're touching around all these subjects, you ought to do a deal on the copyright of the name. Because you're touching on a lot of things, and if somebody goes half-cocked just with this little segment tonight, without that copywritten name, you know what I'm saying? It's right in it. You're touching on a lot of things that are.
Well, that's what New York Native was saying earlier, is that it's, you know, it encompasses a large spectrum, and it's hard to keep track.
Yeah, maybe your next, whenever a copyright one would be good.
Well, I've done some on copyright. Maybe I'll have to do a review.
Yeah.
We know that the courts are always going to operate on behalf of the plaintiff by special arrangement for service between the plaintiff and the foreign state or political.
Between the plaintiff and the foreign state or political subdivision. Remember, the plaintiff can't be anybody but the real party in interest. So the plaintiff here is a real party in interest. And then they're saying, and the foreign state or political subdivision. Understand the language. They're admitting that you're an American national, and that's the foreign sovereign immunity that you hold against their foreign state or public or political subdivision, because you are in fact, and no record can say otherwise, that you are the real party in interest. The law states the real party in interest is the only one that can come forth as a plaintiff. Is the state of Iowa a real party to begin with? No. Go ahead, sister.
Well, that's what I was bringing up, because under Rule 17, when they talk about plaintiff and defendants, I'm looking for my rule book right now, and that's where when it talks about plaintiff and defendants, but then down below they talk about the executor, the guardian, those people are part of a public office. So a private man and private woman, can they elect to take on those positions, or I don't believe that they can. What is your opinion?
You can imply yourself to do it.
Right, and that's what this system works on, is a presumption. So if you fill out an application, it implies by presumption that you are that. That's why it's so important to learn that signature. If you're going to be signing those documents, make sure you put the right capacity, so that if they come back and play any of their shenanigans, you can show them by the signature that you qualified it appropriately to the trust, that you're the benefactor, and that recognizes their capacity as trustee. And they, if they violate their internal contract in that trust, it's breach of contract and trust by committing a tort against the beneficiary.
Right, that's what I thought, because I don't think one would need to. I don't think private man would need to take on those positions, because if you already have the understanding that you don't qualify, there's no need to take on those positions. So I understand that part.
Yep. Okay.
Can I answer that? I know I talk probably way too much. I apologize. Can you ask that question again? Listen to what she asked, Keith. Real close.
Okay.
Go ahead. Ask again. Hello?
The question that I was asking, because I understand the capacity of Rule 17 as far as the plaintiff and the defendant part, but the thing is, the man or the woman that is like you said, not a part of their shenanigans within the courtrooms, and not supposed to be participating, I don't see that they could be those executive guardians or trustee or any of those, because they don't qualify. I don't see them to be performing the functions of public office, unless, like Keith says, they qualify, that they want to take on those positions. I'm trying to.
They have to have a knowing intent, and again, that goes to their.
I have my book, and I was trying to read. Oh, can you hear me?
Yep. And that goes, where is it? And that goes, I don't know why I'm getting this. Okay, let's try this. Okay, am I still here? Okay, but I lost my screen. Okay. Okay, we're back there. When it comes to these people taking upon these offices, like I said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. They're taking upon these offices for a job, and don't realize that that simple job is a lot more than just a simple job. It's a public service of a public trust, and therefore they have a moral duty. And a lot of people dismiss their moral duty for the excuse of, I'm just doing my job. You'll have to talk to my boss. I'm doing what he told me. That tells me they don't have any moral character, because they're doing what their boss told them instead of what's rightly true in their heart, knowing that they're violating people. Some way or somehow, you have to know that if you're putting somebody in jail, that there's a very likelihood that you could be violating an innocent man, particularly when it's over a traffic violation or because some neighbor had some kind of issue, and because he's well-to-do and he's got connections in the neighborhood, his neighbor goes to jail when his neighbor didn't even commit any offense. It was just the one guy crying and whining because his feelers got hurt. Come on, we've got to get beyond this.
So Keith, in that sense, it, like you said, someone got into their feelings, right? So how, in that sense, that an innocent party is sending out documentation to rectify the situation, but it's like they're being blocked at all
because
avenues.
nobody's dealing with the right people. Again, we have to understand, we got to go to the top. Quit fooling around with these little fuckers. The municipal level, the mayor, the attorney, and the clerk. County level, the county commissioner and board of directors, the attorney and the clerk. State level, the secretary of treasury, adjutant general, and the governor. Federal level, the attorney general, the bureau of consular affairs, and the president. We have to quit being afraid, thinking these people have more power than us. We gave them our consent. That's where they get their authority. They have no power other than that.
I get it, Keith, where I have sent information to like the clerk and the people above her, and also to the attorney general, but all those things came back as postmaster something could not receive. So and I know the information was correct, and I even sent mail, but again, I haven't received any of those green return cards saying that they were received. So I know I'm being what they call what do you call that term? Uh,
Well, I can't say that you're sending them to the right places, sister. That's why I say we're still trying to figure this out. And people need to quit sending them notices like that they are getting back. The electronic mail system is valid. Use it.
when you say electronic mail, are you saying the internet? I mean the
Yes.
email,
Yes.
via email?
Yes.
I have used those, and those came back like a mail demon, postmaster didn't receive or whatever. So I mean, what am I to do?
Then you have to get a hold of them on the phone and ask them for a valid email. If they give you what they call a valid email and it's not accepting, then there's something wrong in the routing. So you have to go to the postal service or somebody to find out why that mail routing isn't being allowed through. I have to deal with the same thing with my private hybrid routing. And if that's the case, then just use another email. Use a different email. I oftentimes revert back to my Yahoo email if it doesn't go through. Then I can send my regular email in that Yahoo email and have them correspond from their end.
Well, that's what I also try to do with my Yahoo email, and they locked me out of it. I can't even get in it without them asking me for verification before. And then they, after all of that, they said we can't release it to you. So I mean, it's frustrating when I'm working on things and I'm following some of the processes that I know, but it's
I don't know that you really know them, sister. That's why I say, if you're getting locked out, maybe there's something you're doing wrong and you have to figure that out. You can't assume that it's automatically going to go through. You can't assume that these people don't feel like they're being harassed and just shut it down and won't tell you. Create a new email. That's why I've got so many channels.
I called the mayor down here, and they've blocked my number. 3 numbers.
Yeah, and they're not supposed to do that. They're violating your ability to communicate with the people you consent with to be in that office to begin with.
Yep. Okay. so they know that the foreign state or political subdivision is not part of the plaintiff actions. If no special arrangements exist, by delivery of a copy of the summons and complaint in accordance with an applicable international convention on service of judicial documents, not administrative. If no special arrangement exists, by delivery of a copy of the summons and complaint in accordance with an applicable international convention on service of judicial documents. I'll be right back. Made under paragraphs 1 or 2. If service cannot be made under paragraphs 1 or 2, by sending a copy of the summons and complaint and a notice of suit, together with a translation of each into the official language of the foreign state, by any form of mail requiring a signed receipt.
So they're supposed to send it to you with a signed receipt and a translation, and they don't do either. Okay, they send it to you through a false envelope with a window on it that doesn't have an address on the envelope, and you certainly don't get a receipt for it, do you?
To be addressed and dispatched by the clerk of the court to the head of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the foreign estate concerned.
So if everything's being considered domestic, how can they follow the diplomatic channels of notice? This is why I tell you, they keep they educate everybody to write the legal name with the address as a national address format. I don't use a national address format. I use a format of 5 lines that expresses a trust as a foreign element and no last names. Brother Keith, : stop, in Ecclesia, : stop, first line. Care of, : stop, Joyce, : stop, second line. 1234 ABC Street, third line. Waterloo, Iowa, zip code 50701 in square brackets, fourth line. United States of America, fifth line.
That's why I call myself Chaplain Keith. Or if service cannot be made within 30 days under paragraph 3, by sending 2 copies of the summons and complaints and notice of suit, together with the translation of each into the official language of the foreign state, by any form of mail requiring a signed receipt, to be addressed and dispatched by the clerk of court to the Secretary of State in Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, to the attention of the Director of Special Consular Services. And the Secretary shall transmit 1 copy of the papers through diplomatic channels to the foreign state, and shall send to the clerk of the court a certified copy of the diplomatic note.
So, when they bring a suit against you, they're supposed to send it to the United States in Washington, D.C. In that, the Washington, D.C. will give the state consent to sue a United States business. See, you're not supposed to sue the United States without their consent, right?
When the papers were transmitted. So if they don't have an address of the foreign state because you don't use that address, how are they going to send it to you? You have to establish a private line of communication. Again, Matthew 18, verse 15. If you have aught with your brother, you're supposed to go to them in private. And my aught with my brother is that they're making everything public. So I got to go to them in private. Who do I go to? Special Director, Special Consular Services, Bureau of Consular Affairs. One of the ones I'm noticing, along with Pentagon, FBI, Secret Security Service.
And again, Brother Keith in Ecclesia, that's the given name. The given name of a third-party beneficiary. And you can send it to me in the mail, and I know my capacity, and I can open it up and settle the matters as I can control it, as holder in due course even. So the more you learn about this, the more you learn how to handle their equipment and give it back to them so they can do their damn job. That's all we're doing.
Services, all of them, all the way up and down the line. Every motherfucker on this earth is going to learn. I'm not the one. I'm done. I hope you guys learn how to stand up for yourself as well. Let's get on to the next one. 22 U.S. Code 2651A. It used to be 2658. Now it's 2651A. They repealed the 2658, renumerated it, and remanaged or reorganized it in different parts. But the organization of Department of State is now a 2651A. And it says the Department of State shall be administered. It's an administration. All departmental regulations are administrations. So I don't care if it's a department or an agency. It's all administrative. In accordance with this act and other provisions of law, under the supervision and direction of the Secretary of State, herein referred to as the Secretary. the Secretary, the Deputy Secretary of State, and the Deputy Secretary of State for Management and Resources. This is the human labor capital,
shit.
the labor services, Title 20.
And this is my apologies. Thanks, Mitch. This is where the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act is so important, because when they file these suits and expect you to turn up into those courts under a consent of being sued, it's not under a consent of being sued, it's under a threat. And again, it's because it's been implied that you have minimum state contacts of domestication through that enumeration at birth. And that's an inauthentic claim, again, because you don't take upon any of this until you turn 18 and start signing documents that you were indoctrinated into believing that you had to have, when in fact there are prerequisites that say you can't. Therefore, they're using an inauthentic claim and then presenting inauthentic exceptions because of that inauthentic claim. Break that presumption.
29, Employee Record, Title 5, the Individual, Title 5. 42, Social Security, Health and Welfare. 21, Benefits, Employee Benefits. See, all those codes talk about employees and agents that are part of the association. You're not part of it. Quit playing their game. Shall be appointed by the President by and with the advice and consent of the Senate. Notwithstanding any other provision of law, and except as provided in this section, the Secretary shall have and exercise any authority vested by law in any office or official of the Department of State. The Secretary shall administer, coordinate, and direct the foreign service of the United States and the personnel of the Department of State. See, direct the foreign service and of the United States and the personnel of the Department of State. So the personnel of the Department of State, as it relates to the Department of Defense, is everybody with an enumerated birth certificate.
See how that trickles down? So you now become part of the Foreign Service as so authorized through enumeration at birth. And that's a Department of State issue. State Vital Statistics Jurisdiction. And again, that's an exclusive jurisdiction according to the individual record.
You're acting as part of the Department of State, Department of Defense. You're acting as if though you're part of that association at the top level because somebody claimed you'd be a resident. You fell for it. I urge you to quit. Sign, resign, retire. Give them notice. I'm no longer process server. Except where authority is inherent or vested in the president, or except where authority is inherent and vested in the full armor of God. See, they always forget to mention that stuff. Well, they can't mention it because Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. So that's the supplement you have to put in there in regards to the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. It says that Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. And you've taken the natural inherent person who was born naturally and developed spiritually and construed it as a manual existence. I guarantee you.
And that's the rebuttal of their nature and purpose for being reimbursed for some kind of loss. 73 million? Tell you what, I call you and raise you another 73 million, because the nature and purpose that I'm requiring for my reconciliation is a variance of categorical pre-treatment standards that are fundamentally different in nature. I'm not a you.
I exist spiritually in my natural presence, not manually. You see a man, and that man might do paperwork here and there every now and then, but that doesn't mean I'm a manual operator. I'm a spiritual operator. I operate spiritually. I let the spirit guide the body, and it says it will do everything it needs to enhance and prosper in life. And that means it will sacrifice its own body so that another being can live fully and wholly. I give no fucks for any bullshit anymore. Tired of the shit. I'm tired of other people thinking that they know what they're doing when they don't. It's very simple. You're communicating wrong. You've been babbling. You've been indoctrinated into doing it. It makes it so much easier for them to let you walk into court and start babbling and not know what the fuck's going on so they can throw you in jail.
And again, I was that bitch ass slave. I was the fucking fool. I was the guy that funny looking guy in a black robe looked at and said, "Do you understand English?" And I looked right back at him with a sneer in my eye and a crooked mouth and just vehemently, "Yes." That was a mistake, but it's something I learned from, because I really didn't understand the English language, and I still don't, but I am learning to comprehend how useful and artistic it is, and I'm getting much better at it.
Well, all along, inherently, you know you're different, yet you don't do a damn thing to find out what it is and how to express it. You'd rather go home and sit in front of that booth and watch somebody else's exciting and dramatic life because yours is so fucking righteous. It's sickening. It makes it hard for people like myself trying to educate people how to stand up. It really does. Quit sending your kids to them public schools. They're nothing but propaganda and indoctrination camps. They're lining you up. They're lining you up. Just like Floyd says. Just another brick in the wall. And you're part of that wall. You're being the brick. Fucking blockheads. Anyway, y'all know who I'm talking about. If it's not you, don't worry. Keep coming back. I'm going to keep putting this stuff out. In the meantime, I want to thank everybody once again. Yeah.
So Keith, the question that I have, I think one time I heard Malika say something about her birth certificate being different, not being like the United States, you know, like the one issued supposedly well, I would say
Yeah, she was born
supposedly, but
outside of the country, so she's got a foreign
so what,
certificate.
how would that work?
Same thing, like I said earlier, their laws are based on a naturalization process. Why do you need that if you were born naturally? Shouldn't you be able to express that? And in that expression and bringing it peacefully as an image and likeness, a neighbor, love thy neighbor as thyself enough, wouldn't they have to have an exception to that peace that you bring by having some way of proving that you're not peaceful? That's what they're using the record for, is to show that everybody's a belligerent claimant. They've been making false claims all their life. Why would we believe them?
The part that I get it, Keith, what you're talking about. I get it, you know, and I understand, and I read, you know, and I'm following you, and I get what you're talking about. But my frustration is that it's just me, and no matter how much I read, no matter me listening to you know, when you come on and do your thing, and even when I'm in the class with Malika and I'm putting my documents together, I get to a point where sometimes I get something done and I get it off. I don't get any response, or I get halfway, but I don't get I don't get that assistance that I need to help me to push forward. And
Well, if
but I have, it's all the way around. It's not just the people that I'm working towards getting myself free. It's even immediate, and it's down just to me.
I know, and
It's
that's what
just me right now.
I'm trying to show everybody here is in my interactions here locally. 6 months ago, I tried to get a meeting with the mayor. It didn't work out. So I had to go to city council meeting to let him know. Now I had that meeting set up. I went to the meeting, and now I've let him know that I want to speak to him again. He called me back, gave me the information. So we started looking up that information. You come to find out I need to talk to the city clerk. And so I put a call into the city clerk, and now I'm waiting for her to call back, and nothing there. I also talked to the assistant DA, told him I needed to speak to the DA, called down to make an appointment. He's not around. I got to make an appointment with him specifically. He's out for a couple weeks, busy, We'll leave my number and name so he can call me back at his convenience. It's been a week for both of them. So I'm in the same position. So it's just a matter of letting them know in different venues, if you need to, start going to city council meetings. Start
Yes,
going
Keith,
to the county
I
commission meetings.
understand what you're saying, but I'm in an area where I'm always being placed. It's where it's not just like I can just get on something, go to the city hall. I mean, it's miles that I have to go, and then I have to be dependent on someone. And that's where my whole situation, even with my phone situation, they've minimized my communication with the use of my phone. And I've gone to these people for them to for it to correct the situation. And it's every turn that I take, I'm being caught up in some kind of a blockage. It's just like when you talk about this, what do you call that thing? You call it blockchain or whatever. And because no one, even people right next to me, and they look at me, I'm being blamed for something, stuff that I don't even do. And when I say I need this, when I called you a few weeks ago about that situation, again, it's like I got no assistance.
I feel you, sister. I run into the same deals. I actually, you saw a couple of my videos, Keith, where I went to the council meetings. I've tried everything. I've tried to reason with these people, rational, and I've also been in there pretty stern at the DA's office. And these folks, they just not interested.
Yep. And that's
You're just
Well,
not
I think what
interested.
and
I think what they do, I think what they do because they have your data elements, because they have those things, and they know the different means that you communicated with different businesses before. That's where the blockages comes in. I know that's what it is for me,
Well, you think
and
they
I know
got to
that's what
think
they're
that,
utilizing.
right,
well, we
and they
got it.
probably think the information's going to affect them financially in some sort of way, and and then they're not knowing whether it is it or it isn't. Yeah.
Well, and that's part of the problem is everybody wants to live in this future thing while wanting everything now. And this is why I try to tell people I've been at this 8 years. I know people that have been at it 15, 20 years. It's not something I expect to be able to effectuate for myself. I hope to. I certainly do have that hope. But the intent is not to effectuate it for myself, but to make sure that I do everything I can so that the next generations can.
Absolutely.
So patience is the key in everything. I've learned that one of my best moves in all of this was from that last court case. I started out, I was going to go after him. I was going to get him for 18 USC 241, 242, 1963 claim and all this, and or 1983 claim and all this. And I've kind of come to find out that's not the way to go. And so I've had to really step back into that patience and knowing that when I gave everything up, I actually gained everything I need in life. I realize my boundaries now, and now I have something, now I have boundaries I can stretch. One of the biggest boundaries I urge everybody to stretch is your patience.
I've had patience for a long time, Keith, and even you said yours has been 8 years, and mine's been a little bit longer than that. And I'm a very patient person, a woman. I don't even use the word person. I'm a very patient woman. But now, when they're utilize people very close to you that you have a close, intimate relationship, and they have them coming against you, and they have your children coming against you, and they have they have friends coming against you, and they have everybody coming against you, and every time I open in my mouth, I'm blamed for a whole bunch of shit that I'm not doing. And the people who have done shit to me, I can't see them. I can't get to go to where I need to go. And even though I petition the Most High on this, even when I think my petition is being heard, and the Most High is supposed to know your heart, I'm being blamed for trying to get myself out of a situation as being an op, or being or agent, or and it's frustrating, because all I do is in my whole entire life was walk righteously, help people, give even the shirt or the shoes or whatever it is off my back. And I know I'm not mad at anyone. I'm just frustrated because today I get up and I'm realizing I I get on posting things, and even I'm posting to give knowledge and to clarify what I know in my own mind. I'm being attacked. I'm not
Yep,
out
and
here
I
trying to be I'm not out here being one of those corporate agents or anything like that. I'm not any of that. I'm just a simple woman walking in the righteousness of the Most High. My heart is pure, and that's I'm not going to change who I am for anyone.
yep, and I feel your frustration, sister. I'm the same way. Like I said, I've been telling people all my life, you're not my daddy. You can't change me. I got to do what I got to do. And if I think you're going the wrong way, I'm not going to go that way. That's as simple as it gets. And in that, I just got to know that I'm willing to deal with any consequences where I might be in error or something. But in that, I'm also going to be bold and steadfast in my word and willing to put my life on the line. 98% of the people are not willing to do that.
There's where the problem is.
Yep. And with that, we're at the end. You guys got anything on the way out?
I want to just say to sister over there, stay true to yourself.
You know, people judge me, and then when they got to know me, they said, "Sister, don't change who you are. Stay the way you are." But all I have is four walls in a room, and that's no different than being locked away. And sometimes the four walls give you more love than people closest to you.
And that's a profound statement, sister, because I've thought several times throughout my life as an adult after I spent that time in the prison in a 6x9 and I became antisocial. I sometimes wished I had that 6x9, even if it was just a 6x9, just so everybody else, I was safe. It was my safe space and nobody else could come in unless somebody unlocked that door. And that's a heavy lock.
Yeah. All right. Much love, everybody. It's always a pleasure.
No need to apologize, sister.
I love the peace of mind that I have. But when you get to a point where you give so much of yourself and you keep giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and you ask, how much more can you give?
Yep. Give as much as God gives you to give, sister. That's all I can say.
Well, that's what I'm doing, brothers.
Absolutely. I see it. And I'll be a witness for you. All right. With that, guys, we are out. Moonbug real quick asks, what documentation did I put in to claim to be a non-citizen? And in the last court case, I gave him 4 documents, power of attorney, declaration of true name, affidavit of or notice of foreign state, and statement of separation. So 4 documents I entered into the court with the birth certificate as evidence. So the claim has been made in part, and all I'm doing now is perfecting it, gathering information so I can fill in all the gaps, fix any controversies, and show that it's impossible. Pure and simple. So with that, I love you guys, and you know me. I don't care if you don't love me back. I don't give a one rat's ass. I say I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you don't love me. I don't care if you don't respect me. I don't care if you hate me so much that you want to come after me. That's on you. So may God bless you, and I'll be back at 9 with a stateless video. We're going to review stateless as it relates to the foreign sovereign immunities and various other things we're discussing. So may God bless you, and we'll see you later. Bye now.